Yes, we're back with Reconstructing the World with me, your host, Anders Morgenthaler. And look, I'm back at our beautiful building from Lennager. Anders Lennager, my co-host, most sustainable architect in the world. The building is Træ, and today's episode is not about a certain material or anything else. It is a conversation with the chief of architecture in all of Aarhus, and she's here. Mette Boye, and beside her is, you know him, right? Anders Lennager, most sustainable architect in the world, blah, blah, blah. Anyway,
yes,
I'm looking forward to this conversation today, guys.
Super excited.
Yes. So you're the most powerful person in all of Aarhus, is that correct?
Of course.
Yes, I was right. Okay, I'm out of here.
All right, see you. Okay, but so what we're going to talk about today in Træ is that when we do these types of circular buildings, then we're only allowed to do it if the municipality and the mayor architect, which is you, and your people hired with you, agree on what we're doing. So,
Mayor of Architect, is that what you are?
Usually we call it chief city architect.
Okay, I thought actually I was right.
In Germany it's the mayor architect, I'm just telling you, so maybe that's next step, that's Berlin.
This is Denmark, just very quick reminder. Mayor of Architect. Anyway, it sounds amazing.
It's a good title.
But guys, what we should talk about is that we're here and we're going to talk about the local architecture around here, and you can then tell us about how the municipality. I'm never going to learn that word. I'm never going to say it again.
Now we know.
This town.
This place.
This town. We're going to talk about the architecture in this town.
Couldn't you, and Mette, couldn't you just tell us a little bit about this area where we are right now? And also before we started building, what type of place this was?
Yeah. Well, first of all, this area used to be you need to sort of to see it a little bit from above. You have an old slaughterhouse just over here, and you had this site, and you can see over here you have all the harbor with all the industrial buildings that has this huge, very sort of impressive scale. And then you had this site, which was to be conveyed into a new urban neighborhood. And the way this was done was to have quite a big conversation about first what is the main ideas, what is the intentions of this area, what kind of value should be be preserved throughout the whole competition. And what I think is really interesting about this is, first of all, it's a really difficult site, because what you have here, the whole harbor area, actually means that here you can't build housing. And housing is usually some of the things that you mixed with offices and cultural things. So you can create this lively neighborhood. But because you could only build offices or commercial architecture, they needed to find a way to make this neighborhood alive also in the evening. And so what they do was they invited into a competition where the ones that were to bid were also to propose or to make collaborations with the cultural institutions in the town.
And is that because this area we're in is quite rough?
Yeah.
It's like you have.
But there's a lot of life already.
There's a lot of life. What is on stake here is that the old slaughterhouses has been for a long time. There's been cultural. There's been drawing office, like studios and artists and so forth. But what was interesting is that it was very important that they could stay.
Oh, so you wanted to keep all these areas
Everyone
here?
has to stay here, right?
Everyone has to stay.
Also the ones that are kind of a little bit on the edge of society.
Yes.
And Mette is very right. The difficult part here is how do you mix these things or keep them separated in a good manner in a new urban development?
I think you also often have these ambitions of having a diversity, a social diversity, but and they can very easily be just words. And what has happened here is that the developers have been in a collaboration with with their place over here, and they made like small jobs.
So they're called the
Sydhavnspedeller.
Yeah,
which is the
assistants.
Yes.
janitors
Yeah.
of this area.
Yes.
So you
Cleaning
actually,
up.
as a municipality, you mean it.
No,
you want to want to keep the
we
area
do.
as diverse
Yes.
as possible.
Yes.
Not just saying it.
No.
But that leads also to kind of some of the demands that came from you guys in the
Yeah.
municipality about now it's difficult for me as well.
Yeah.
What to do in the ground floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's you're contaminating me with this municipality.
Yeah. My dyslexic. Thank you very
So,
much.
so the functions that are in the street level here is going to be public, right?
Yeah.
And it's going to be food kitchens, cafes, and so on,
Yeah.
trying to integrate with what is happening over here.
Yeah.
But
Not to interrupt you, but usually a kitchen is food. So a food kitchen is like, that's obviously.
but it's
It's not a fitness kitchen.
But that would actually be quite
Oh, yeah,
interesting.
that's quite nice.
How
Yeah.
could you
Yeah.
make
How
a
could you
fitness
work out with?
and do things?
okay. You
Working.
agree so much with each other.
Yeah, I'm
I'll
just trying to be
but the
charming.
Food kitchen was actually, I think there is an idea about a certain type of kitchen that's moving in. There's also making dishes for homeless and
okay.
so on. So there's a social side of this kitchen as well.
Okay.
Let's see how it happens. But
And that's all gonna happen in the ground floor, right?
Well, the ground floor is to be open, but also I think it's quite. Now we actually passed it, but this way of making space in between the buildings that is public accessible. So this was one of the things that we were looking forward to actually to see, and we've talked a lot about it. Because when we talk about this coexistence, I think, as I said before, the words are very easy to write. But we also see that now we have the building site. To actually to do it is sometimes quite hard because what happens when you are here and you're used to be social over here and to do all your things, and then you suddenly have a building site next to you. We have seen that some of the users here have been starting to move a little bit into different areas. So of course the sound of being on this building site, and also because
there's a building site over here as well.
Exactly, and also the fences and so forth is squeezing the areas, and you actually need some space because it's not just one group.
Do you think
it's
they
a
will
lot
come
of
back
group.
when we are finished?
What we hope is that we can actually build a new house there.
Over here.
Yeah, just behind, because this is where the house is. So to create a new community house where that is even better than the one
But I think
they
it's quite an interesting thing, because what I heard about this project is that instead of many projects want to invite people from outside the system into the system. We so much want people to be integrated, or they sell a newspaper inside the building or whatever. But in reality, they want it the other way around. That they invite us into their world when they feel ready for it or it's meaningful. And I think that's, for me, was also a new thing, that if you are neighbors in this sense, it's also about respecting that. And being able to integrate yourself into whatever they want to invite you into. So this social exchange is extremely important, both on a human level, but also kind of building and functionality level. But I think that's a big learning on this project.
It is.
So one thing is the diversity of the area here, where you normally want to squeeze out, this kind of group, because it lowers the value of the tenants in the building, right?
Yes.
But I think we should also talk about your engagement in the project, because my understanding is that you actually took some chances of the project. Can you talk about that?
Yes. Well, together with my colleagues, of course, because the usual way that we make building permits is that we would like to see a finished project.
Okay, and there was no, I'm trying to train Anders to walk while we talk, because it's more interesting. Just slowly walking, but like... And there was no, I'm trying to train Anders to walk while we talk, because it's more interesting. Just slowly walking, but like...
But that means I have to do two things.
Yeah, and I will teach you to...
See, that's what it's difficult for architects. Anders is saying that all the time. Can't you talk and walk at the same time?
And he
it's
can't.
very complex.
Because
That's why I keep walking in front of you guys and behind you and all this. It's called the walking dog.
Walkie-talkies.
Okay, so normally you will see a project. Now you will see a project normally.
Yes.
Where you will be presented. Anders will present you a facade, saying, okay, this is a facade, and that facade should somehow relate in your world to these buildings around, right?
Yeah.
What happened here?
No, what happened here was that the project that was proposed were a project where you needed to harvest the materials from different areas, and that meant that we needed to reinvent the way we gave the permit because we couldn't give it on a finished project.
But why did you choose this project for this? Why?
Because we need to push for this agenda. I mean, we need to push for the circularity. We need to push for more sustainability, and that's both in material-wise and CO2.
But why did you take a chance of this instead of?
Because, of course,
sorry, but other people who build buildings.
But for us, as a municipality, what's difficult for us is that we are not the ones who's building.
Okay.
I mean, we can lay out ambitions, we can lay out sort of a plan, and we can work with some of the things through regulations. But what we really need is ambitious clients, and ambitious clients, and very good architects. And I would say if we always had
that's
that,
him, right? Yeah, okay.
That was this project.
No, but what is important is that, well, sometimes just for fun, I'm saying if we just always had ambitious clients, and good architects, we actually didn't. I mean, I could just sit.
You would have a job.
Yeah.
Luckily, there's a lot of bad architecture out there.
There's been a lot of work for Mette on this project. I tell you that.
And when we saw your project, I was thinking, okay, well, we cannot just say go. We need to have some kind of agreement. Yeah. So what we did was to make these design principles, to have a guide, and it was actually not that long, but it was a document that showed the architectural intentions. And I think when we work with reuse of materials, we need to be just as careful with how we put things together as, I mean, even more maybe. Yeah. So we laid out this document where we could see, okay, but does this, and when you came with new projects and new ideas, we could sort of say, okay, but does that comply with our intentions? And in that sense, we had a plan, and we could give you sort of successive, now you can go and you can do this, and we're here and we can work on that.
So the cool thing was absolutely that it was a collaboration. And normally, even though you would think that when an architect comes with a project to the mayor architect or the chief architect, that it's more not a collaboration, it's kind of a collaboration, but you are more like giving, here's our project, and if it lives up to all the plan standards, local plan standards, they more or less have to say yes to what you're bringing in. Yeah. But in this case, when we don't know how the facades are going to look, or we are harvesting new recycled materials, as you can see on the mock-ups where we're
going to go over to the mock-ups.
Then all of a sudden you need to work together. And also, I think an important thing is that, of course, architecture often works with mock-ups, testing facades. Yeah.
Like we have here.
These are super important steps to understand where we're coming from and where we are going. Yeah. Because this is the closest to seeing what it's going to end up with. And these mock-ups were made way before there was even started building over here.
So this, let's stand in front of it so we can see it all the time. So this is a mock-up.
That's a nice sign.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a good one.
It's a great ADHD. Oh, a bird. This is a facade that you guys then developed together with you guys, right? You then go into development of, saying we need to be sure that you just don't put waste on the.
Well, we don't mind putting waste, but
beautiful waste.
But we want to have an aesthetic conversation about it. Yeah.
And this was the aesthetic conversation.
Yes.
And in earlier programs, we have gone through very meticulously with my Tesla running over various of these plates. So it's now on the building.
It's a very flat
she didn't know that.
Yeah,
but,
we have a special spotlight for those ones.
Exactly. Yeah. We will have a spot in the night shining on those alone.
Turning Anna's.
That's why it's so lovely working with you, because you get me.
The importance of calling on Morgenthaler every night with like a light machine.
So, we're going to do that.
Okay.
The evil bat.
That turned out fast. Then what you then do is you say, okay, this mock-up we think it could work with the area, or is it like?
Yeah, it's. I mean, we go back. First of all, of course, you as architects have sort of the main responsibility for creating an architectural expression that is sort of coherent.
Anders is zoning out.
No, seriously, I was just trying while you were talking. I was looking at all the other buildings, trying to find the narrative in this, and then I was thinking of this ripple effect on the building there, and the ripple effects on the factory, and I was thinking, my next question will be, so the ripple effect from these areas is actually, in some conscious way, copied into this?
It's the trapeze sheet facade or roof material is an industrial material. It's a low-cost material. And you would normally never see it in a high-end building like this, a new office building. And in many ways, both in kind of the surface that it's used, that it has patina and so on, it refers to an old industrial landscape, reinterpreted into this shingle format. And that's what we've been discussing so much. How can we spend our energy in creating value out of something that really is seen as waste first, then secondly as a not really nice material, and then do a good design that can be approved in the municipality and put on a high rise. That's a really complex set of process that we've gone through, and that's why collaboration has been so unique.
No, one thing I need to understand is, okay, so I get the storytelling from all these facades all the way. I can actually see it, but don't you need to also match it to that one that has been built before?
The washing machine or the bank?
Obviously the bank. So, kind of the same thing, huh? That was a joke. But this material here, do you think it will match over here?
I would see it as this is the first step of the development of this whole area, and was built quite a few years ago. And when I sort of look at it, seeing up on the street, the connection with this building is even more connected to sort of to the other side. And here you will have the street, and I think what is important is this openness in the ground floor.
Oh yeah, the park kind of area, right? Let's go down here.
One thing that our building is doing, and it has to do because it's placed here, is that we need to create smaller buildings that allow people to kind of flow in between. So it becomes a public space and not kind of pushing people away. Here we also have kind of a walking snake, as we call it, but a kind of a pathway, public pathway, but you can go in between the buildings. And I think that brings down the scale to the buildings behind it that are smaller, and also Kohalen here are smaller buildings that they can in coherency with what is in the context. And at the same time, it's reaching a height and a scale that can, still connect with these structures.
And especially also the structures behind, because they're also very tall.
So what's with the hands?
You're
directing a plane right now.
I just wanted to point you in that direction.
I mean, we need to put on our masks. And,
yes, we're flying that way. No, I just wanted to show you look at that, and then look at that.
I see.
So the idea is to kind of get this view through the building and see the context, the beautiful industrial buildings, the small buildings, and that they're stepping up towards the harbor. And I think it's for you in kind of the allowing this in the plan that it became a transparent building is so important. And a very important part of the architecture that it's 3 buildings and not 1.
Yeah. And I very much agree, because one of the things that we are quite conscious about in Aarhus is that we have the bay just out there. And it's one of our sort of most important assets. I mean, it's really huge quality, but we're constantly, keeping, maybe we can't see the water, but we have the idea that the water is there. So we have this feeling.
So just to get it, so what you guys are thinking about as a municipality is that you want to have as many clear paths as possible towards the harbor and the ocean, and so your change in aesthetic of the city is that instead of putting up, because all the, from old times, all the industrial blocks are built out of a function and not of a human behavior, right? And now you want to open up the city so that the humans can sort of come through, and that's why you also are doing that the cold crane track, right?
I think one of the words that could be interesting to have here is porosity.
Ooh, I get that.
Because,
but please explain it to the audience.
Yes, no, because it's not there. It's not my term. It's the term that I've borrowed from some Italian urbanists. But I think it's when we look at the city, it's important that we think of it as a porosity. It has because you need to be able to sort of to slide through it on very different scales, and it's both. I mean, us as humans, it's the connections, what we see, but it's also biodiversity that we can you can move through. Yeah. And when you have a city with a large porosity, it doesn't mean that it needs to be an open city, because we also need some density. But it means that that we have a city that's also very walkable and very bicycleable.
So you have to bike around, right? So I totally see it. The thing is, I'm totally seeing it now. I hadn't put that into a context. I was talking about materials, but I actually can see the porosity of the building. Can I ask something at the end to both of you guys? It's like, how big is the role for you, the ambition for you, Mette, as a mayor of architecture? How do you see yourself, if you have something to say to everybody who works in your position, what is the most important thing people should do in your position around the world?
It's to start the sustainable transition and to create real projects. I mean, I think we know a lot now. We know why we need to actually to do it. And the hard job is to balance that with also a social awareness of getting everybody with you on that journey. So I think that's, and you can use the way that we organize our building fabric and the way that we build our buildings. We can use that as an active. They're not just dead building, they're actually doing something to move us forward to that. So transformation, sustainable materials, reuse and so forth.
That is the right mindset right there. That's very good.
She's just saying it because she approved your building. No, sorry, that was a joke. It was actually a joke.